So today, we have a fight between dragons. Balerion, the Black Dread, taking on Smaug the Golden. Who wins? Well, let's find out. So, starting us off here, let's start with Balerion. Here's everything we know about Balerion, since he's never showed up in any of the shows following A Song of Ice and Fire. Here's the things that we know about him. Balerion the Black Dread was the biggest and strongest of all the Targaryen dragons that ever lived in Westeros, and was the only one to have died of old age. His first rider that we know of was Aegon the Conqueror, and he was crucial in the Targaryens starting their ruling dynasty in the Seven Kingdoms that would last for the next 300 years. His size has never been said or stated, but there are some things we do know for sure when it comes to his size. Firstly, he could eat a full-grown woolly mammoth whole. Like, he could just open his mouth and a full-grown woolly mammoth could just walk into his mouth and down his throat. Okay? Secondly, his shadow covered entire towns as he flew over them. However, I do want to mention something about that I've never heard anyone else say before. The shadow casted by Balerion would be larger than himself. At least to some degree. It would just depend on how far off the ground he was. Nonetheless, though, he would still have to be massive in size to cast such a shadow. And thirdly, we know he was bigger than Vhagar, the largest dragon in the House of the Dragon. During the house that dragons built, it stated that she was 150 meters long, which is just shy of 500 feet. And since he's bigger than her, I'd say he's right over 500 feet long. And was definitely heavier than her too. This also means we can scale him to Vhagar. We saw Vhagar just bite the dragon Arax in half with ease. We also saw her overpower and kill Meleys, who was the second biggest dragon that Queen Rhaenyra had on her side, at somewhere between 150 and 200 feet long. Balerion's teeth were also as long as swords. His fire was black and red and could melt steel and stone, as well as fuse sand into glass. That's Balerion the Black Dread. But what about Smaug the Golden? And just for my sake, I know it's pronounced as Smaug, but for me to make it easier on myself, I will just call him Smaug going forward. So, Smaug was a fire drake of the Third Age, considered to be the last of the great dragons of Middle-earth. He was known for the destruction he could cause and the golden treasures he hoarded. For 2 centuries, he ruled the Lonely Mountain uncontested, spending his days laying on his treasure hoard and guarding it jealously. He crushed or incinerated anyone who dared try to take any of his treasure. He was massive. The movie version of him was 427 feet long, with a 360-foot wingspan, and he stood 60 feet tall. His teeth were as long as swords, and his claws were like spears. He's easily busted through a bridge, through 2 concrete pillars, knocked over a massive pillar, and he could fly with enough force to uproot several trees. He's covered in scales that are 10 times better than that of any shield, as arrows just bounce off of him, and he even endured being submerged in molten gold, and just literally flew out of it. No problem. However, he does have one weak spot on his belly where a scale is missing, basically. And one well-placed arrow to that spot is what killed him. He was very fast and agile on land, but even more so in the air. He compared the shock of his tail to a thunderbolt, and with his fire, he's laid waste to entire towns, incinerating everything in his path. So, who wins? Well, when it comes to size, it seems Balerion is bigger, I've estimated that he's over 500 feet long, and Smaug was at 427 feet long. This would also make Balerion stronger and heavier, but it's not by like a significant margin or anything. Durability is weird because we don't have much on Balerion here. We know arrows bounced off of him, and that dragons in general have a resistance to fire. We also know he gained some injury during his time in Old Valyria in 53 AC, I believe, when he returned there. However, it doesn't seem to be, it wasn't a severe injury, just a noticeable one. He also didn't have a weak spot like Smaug does. But Smaug's skills seem to be tougher than Balerion's, just because he was known as Smaug the Impenetrable. And he also endured being submerged in molten gold just fine. So, I would venture to say Smaug's skills are tougher than Balerion's just because of that. Smaug is also faster. I'm sure once Balerion got going, he was pretty fast, like in the air, right? But in House of the Dragon, we see Vhagar be more sluggish to get going than other dragons because of her much bigger size. Being bigger, Balerion would have had the same issue. Despite not being that much smaller than them, Smaug doesn't seem to have that issue at all, being able to run and take off very quickly. And then there's the fire breathing, right? Balerion's fire was black and red, so I'd assume his is hotter. However, dragons in both universes are known to be resistant to dragon fire and extreme heat in general. Not immune, just resistant. And then something I haven't mentioned is intelligence. In A Song of Ice and Fire, dragons were known to be intelligent creatures. However, they haven't really showed anything above being able to take commands from their rider. Basically, as smart as like the smartest dogs out there, being able to take commands from their master. Viserion and Rhaegal did eventually melt their chains off with their fire, which does show some problem-solving intelligence. But that was after at least weeks of being chained up that they were finally like, oh yeah, I guess we could do that. But Smaug is described as highly intelligent and having the most sophisticated intelligence. He was very clever as he quickly figured out why Bilbo was there, and he was also very sarcastic, which displays high intellect. However, his problem here is that he's easily blinded by greed and rage. And the last thing I want to mention is Smaug's one weak spot on his belly. Balerion won't know about it, of course, but Smaug's skills are only impervious to man-made weapons, not attacks from other large dragons or creatures. Balerion will not have to hit that spot specifically to inflict damage on Smaug, and we saw how dragons fight each other in House of the Dragon. Fire breath followed by biting down on them and then using their claws on their legs to slash at their chests and stomach areas. Doing this, Balerion might just unknowingly hit Smaug's weak spot, and he's dead. If one arrow there killed him, one of Balerion's claws will do the same. But that is when Smaug's greater speed and mobility would come into play to dodge the initial bite and counter it. So, who wins? Well, Balerion is bigger, stronger, doesn't have a weak spot, and has hotter flames. Smaug is overall tougher, faster and more agile, and smarter. I was originally going to side with Smaug at the start of this, originally, and I do think he could win this, but I don't think I can bet against Balerion here. If Vhagar can catch the smaller, faster dragons she's killed in House of the Dragon, Arax and Meleys, then Balerion can do the same here, and once he does, he can just overpower and overwhelm Smaug. The fight wouldn't be over right then and there, of course, as Smaug can definitely hold his own here, but either Smaug makes a successful escape, or he keeps getting caught up by Balerion. I just don't see Smaug winning this one, more often than not. This is a fun fight, and I'd definitely like to know what y'all think down in the comments. Please let me know, but I'm siding with Balerion the Black Dread on this one. Like and subscribe if you did enjoy. Leave a comment of what you thought and hit the notification bell to be notified of all my future videos and all the great stuff. Please leave questions down below. I really want to do that Q&A video. I think it would be a lot of fun. Please go follow my Instagram account, dmanversus.videos. I'd truly appreciate it if y'all did all of that. That'd be awesome. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace!